Morning. My name is Robin Fritz, and welcome to Coffee and Cosmos with Robin. Today we're going to talk about grief and loss and coming together and sharing in a time when we can't come together in person. So I invite you to join with me today as we talk about loss and love and grieving our dead and grieving our way of life in the time of the pandemic. And one of the things I'd like you to do is share. So again, welcome. We're getting started here. My name is Robin Fritz. I'm an intuitive and spiritual consultant and past life regression specialist based in Seattle, Washington, and Om Times contributor, and grateful for the opportunity to be with you here today. Today I want to talk about grief and loss in the context of the time of year that it is. And to do that, I invite you to share in and to type in, you don't have to tell us who they are, but type in the names of the people and the animals that you've lost, who have died and gone on and are on that different journey from ours right now. Because today is one of those days in the world, whether you're a Christian or a pagan or whatever you are. This is the time of year when we celebrate coming together in community. So I wanted to talk a little bit about that and share some things with you. Go ahead and type in who you are if you're listening, where you're listening from, and the names of animals or humans that you've lost. And I want to talk about it because right now we're grieving. We're grieving a way of life that we've lost. We're grieving the world that we've lost. And we sometimes get so wrapped up in the grief that we forget that grief also cleanses and helps us move forward. And it helps our beloved dead move forward as well. So one of the things I'm doing today is coming together to share with you the little girl that I was years ago and what happened. I was really young, and Halloween had just ended, October 31st, and it was a lot of fun in our neighborhood. Kids were out and playing and getting all dressed up and eating way too much candy. And that year we didn't. It was just very, very quiet. My brother was sick and he was in the hospital. And, it's never the same when somebody is really ill, especially when they're in the hospital. And unfortunately, this year is a time when a lot of us are familiar with that, right? If not our own loved ones in the hospital, then people that we know of are loved ones of others. But November 1st and November 2nd are also holidays in the tradition of, any spiritual tradition that you're involved in. But I was born and raised Catholic, and so November 1st was All Saints' Day, right? It was the day that you celebrated those religious rock stars, right? The people who just managed to do a lot of things right in their lives, and sometimes got hurt or killed for them, but they were still religious rock stars, and they were saints, and they were people that we looked up to emulate how they acted in the world that made them holy people, right? Which didn't really seem like something that you could achieve. So it was November 1st. And my parents came home from the hospital, and they looked at me and they said, "Your brother went to heaven an hour ago." We were not expecting that, right? And I know when you lose someone, you're not expecting it either, even if you knew ahead of time, which we did not as a young kid. I idolized him. I couldn't imagine him dying on such a sacred day as well. It was just a shock. It was a day that we used to celebrate, and now it was horrible. But what I want to share with you, more important than my grief, was what grief does to all of us. Losing my brother like that destroyed my family. Hi, Deb. Thanks for sharing. Oh my gosh. You've lost so many people in your life. I'm so sorry. And your dog. Oh my gosh. Thank you for sharing that. It has been tough. It has been tough. I know it's been tough. It was tough for me, and it's tough for all of us right now, losing loved ones and losing a way of life that we didn't expect to change, right? And the pandemic changed all of that. It changed what we looked to for the future. It changed how we looked at ourselves. And a loss of life that sometimes we despair of getting back again. But it's also a way of moving forward and claiming something new and better for us on the horizon, moving forward and choosing a way of life and a way of looking and living in the world that we've had time to examine in these last months. An opportunity to choose love and hope and trust and belief, and to work for a brighter and better future, appreciating the beauty and honesty of the world around us. And Deb, in your beauty and honesty of just sharing what you experienced, and my condolences to you. So, November 2nd, which is today, which is why I raised this subject, partly because it just turned out to be the day that my broadcast is. November 2nd is All Souls Day, and in the Christian tradition, it was the time of year, the one time of year that you could run into church and say a bunch of prayers and run out again and spring some poor soul out of purgatory, which, honestly, to tell you, people, does not exist, which I know from my work as a medium. But I thought about it then, right? And every November 2nd, from the time I was a little girl and lost my brother till I went through high school and realized nobody was doing that. But I thought you could run into church, pray, run out again, go back in, and every time you ran in and out of church, you could spring somebody from purgatory. You could help some poor suffering soul. I don't know how they figured out who got sprung and who didn't, or if you got brownie points for that. But that was grief, creating a ritual that doesn't really exist. That was a little girl mourning her brother. That was someone trying to deal with grief. But think about it, and think about what that could mean for us now. It was also someone who didn't give up hope, who believed in a future as confused as I imagined that future to be, who believed that we could love someone we don't even know and make a difference to them, even if they were in the afterlife, or maybe because they were in the afterlife, and that was one last thing that we could do for a perfect stranger. And rituals are important, and we can't come together in community right now and conduct a ritual and feel safe doing that, right? Which is why we're doing it virtually instead of in person, right? But wow, grief doesn't stop. Grief gets worse in a time of fear, right? Grief when we don't see an end to it. And I know as a child we didn't see an end to grief. It never ended in my family. And we don't have to live like that. And it's actually one reason why I became a medium. Of course, my dad, who died in 1994, came back and basically insisted I become a medium. And you know how parents are, even when they're dead and gone, they're like pushing you to do something you may not necessarily want to do. But what I learned as a medium is I don't play guessing games with people. I don't, try to tell them what their loved ones' names or favorite hobbies or what they like to wear, because you already know that, right? What's important, what I know from being a child in grief, what I know from all of the loss I've suffered all my life, friends, family, all my beloved animals, is that grief is real, and honoring grief and recognizing grief and being able to express it with our loved ones helps us heal, and it helps us learn about ourselves on a deeper level than we might have known ourselves before. And that's why now when I think about that suffering little girl, I didn't know I was going to grow up to be someone who talks with the dead, but it is so perfect. It's not the only thing that I do, but it is in many ways the most sacred thing, because it allows us, the living, to connect with the dead, to say, I love you, I miss you, oh my gosh, you were such a jerk, but I still like you. Go ahead and go to the afterlife and renew yourself and choose something new to do next time. And that compassion and that trust and that belief that we can continue to make ourselves better and holier and more sacred by trusting and loving, by claiming kindness and compassion. That is what life is about. So I want you to know that here in this community, here at Own Times, you can come together and be together. And even if you're one person alone, right, here is your time, your place today. If you're watching this live or in the archives, this is your time to share who your loved ones are, to put their names in there, or to think about them if you're too shy to put their names in, whether they're human or animal, that you love them. And people know that our loved ones who have died do check in on us from time to time. They're not with us all the time, you know. You're not thinking about them all the time either, because we're living our life and they're living their new lives in the afterlife and choosing what they're going to do next. But we can always ask them to chime in and check on us. We always have our spiritual team, so we're never completely alone. So use this moment to thank your dead for being part of your life at whatever point they were, to tell them that we love them and miss them, to honor the fact that we know right now for us living that times are not normal. And this is the time of year when we can grieve that. You know, you can say we miss the world that we lost, we miss our loved ones, and we can come back better. We can make it our jobs first and foremost to do whatever we can to make the world healthy and happy again, to add that little brightness of kindness and compassion in our lives, the comfort of community, to create new rituals that bring us together. And let grief cleanse us and renew us and make us stronger, so that we're ready to step up and experience what's coming next, a new and better world that we're creating together, that we're going to get through this pandemic, that we're going to get through the grief of loss. And Deb, it's true, they are near, and there are times when I work with people that their dead comment on things, and it is awesome, you know, it is cool for them to be able to check in on us. In a way, they have it a little bit easier than we do, because they can see us and we can't always see them. So for us, it's believing that they're there. And so thank you for sharing that. And also, I'd like to share aquamarine with you today. I have an aquamarine pendant that I wear all the time, and I love aquamarine. I have to buy the less expensive versions of it, less refined versions, because it's very expensive. Aquamarine, I love it because it's related to ocean. The mariners used it for safety and protection, but it's also this just gentle, warming, embracing crystal. And so you can always feel connected. You can always feel like you can speak your truth. So you can be with aquamarine and tell your loved ones how you feel, or tell the world, you know, that, hey, I want it to change. I want this situation to be over. It's a support. So take a look at it, and you check it out online or on a book and see if you can. I have little pieces of it, you know, that are just as great. I just like looking at this big one and sharing it with you. So believe that through celebrating our loved ones, allowing grief, celebrating our memories of them at this time of year, which is sacred for many cultures, that we can also choose to love and trust and believe in a better world, for justice, for peace, for harmony, for connection, for kindness and love. And love yourself first. That's always the most important thing. Love yourself first. Send out love to the rest of the world. Hands on your heart, bringing healthy energy to yourself and to the world. So again, thank you for joining me. You can find me here online on Facebook at The Practical Intuitive. Let me know if there are subjects you'd like me to cover in upcoming broadcasts. Thank you for joining me today. Take care, and we'll see you next week.